Hello, everyone. If you want to introduce yourself through the chat, indicating from where you are following this webinar, please welcome. You may select the language of your interest between English, French, and Spanish. Bienvenidos a todos. Cordialmente invitados a introducirse a través del chat, indicarnos desde dónde se conectan a este webinar. Asimismo, mencionarles que pueden seleccionar el canal de interpretación correspondiente. Vamos a tener interpretación en francés y español. Entonces, por favor, seleccionen su lenguaje de preferencia en la parte inferior de la pantalla. Rohila, just to confirm that the Spanish interpreter is in contact with you.
Yes, I am in contact with the Spanish interpreter. We are encountering a technical issue and hope he will be able to join very soon.
Thank you very much. Thank you to people that is already connected. We will start in a few minutes. Gracias a las personas que ya están conectadas. Vamos a empezar en un par de minutos. Gracias por su espera. Por favor, si se quieren ir introduciendo a través del chat, invitados a hacerlo, indicándonos desde dónde se conecta este webinar. So we will start this webinar session. Distinguished attendances, ladies and gentlemen, welcome everyone to the IPPC workshop series on Fusarium R4 diagnostic, surveillance, inspection, and simulation exercises. I am Camilo Beltrán Montoya, international phytosanitary specialist at the Implementation and Facilitation Unit at the IPPC Secretariat. I will be the moderator of this session, which is the second session of the three. For today's session, we will have around 400 people registered. Please introduce yourself in the chat, indicating from where you are following this webinar. To begin this session, I have the pleasure to invite the Secretary of the International Plant Protection Convention, Mr. Osama El-Lisi, to open this second session of the workshop series. Welcome, Mr. Osama. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Camilo. I appreciate it. Distinguished guest participants, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the second session of the virtual workshop series in Fusarium R4 diagnostic, surveillance, inspection, and simulation exercises. I am so pleased to inform you that the first workshop session dedicated to Fusarium R4 diagnostics held on the 24th day of March was highly successful. Over 300 participants from over 120 countries representing various regions across the world, including Africa, Asia, the Americas, Europe, the Middle East, and the Pacific region attended the first session quite successfully. So thank you so much. Today, our goal is to deliver another session to promote the prevention and early detection of Fusarium R4. The agenda focuses on the importance of surveillance, which is essential to quarantine pest detection and should be based on a robust, timely, and accurate diagnostic platform. For this reason, we previously disseminated and communicated the details and complexities of the Fusarium R4 diagnostics, which are available on the International Phytosanitary Portal. Today's session includes simultaneous French interpretation provided by COLASP under the IPPC COLASP Memo of Understanding framework. We also have simultaneous Spanish interpretation. Hopefully they've been able to connect the Spanish interpretation provided by SELA. So I'm glad to acknowledge both institutions for their kind contribution and support to this very important webinar. I would like to acknowledge that this workshop series was initially conceived under the framework of FAO support to COMESA trade facilitation program for COMESA countries. However, considering that threat that Fusarium R4 represent, we extended this workshop to include 2 other countries in Asia under the IPPC China project, and then globally by including all interested regions and countries where Fusarium R4 is or may be of a potential quarantine risks. I take this opportunity to thank the COMESA Secretariat for their support and beneficial role in implementing the COMESA project and all other activities that the IPPC Secretariat is coordinating and leading. This includes developing a contingency plan guide and e-learning courses in export certification, surveillance, and pest risk analysis. Likewise, prevention, preparedness, and response guidelines for Fusarium TR4 are being prepared. So look forward to sharing those products with the entire community. On behalf of the IPPC community, we would like to extend our sincere gratitude to the Implementation and Capacity Development Committee, or the IC team on the Fusarium TR4, which was created to help address the global issue of Fusarium TR4 and is composed of remarkable worldwide experts. So I take this opportunity to thank this group for the significant and important work here and around the world. Surveillance is critical to one of the IPPC's core mission, which to prevent the spread of regulated pests and to facilitate safe international trade of plants, plant products, and regulated articles. This process is vital in demonstrating the pest status in exporting and importing countries, providing them with technical basis to require phytosanitary measures as appropriate. The IPPC community counts on ISPM 6, which is dedicated to pest surveillance and allows for general harmonized criteria and processes to conduct this activity. Implementation of surveillance is supported by the IPPC Surveillance Guide, published in 2016. The guide has been revised, and the latest version was published last year. The second edition addresses the policy and management aspects of a national plant pest surveillance program. In addition to the IPPC surveillance guide, the IPPC has been developing several resources and materials where countries may find guidance to prepare and respond to pest outbreak over the years. These include the Pest Risk Communication Guide, the Pest Status Guide, among other resources available for you on the International Phytosanitary Portal. The 16th session of the Commission on Phytosanitary Measures, or CPM 16, is being conducted virtually this year again. Hopefully next year we'll meet in person. And the issue of emerging pests has been one of the primary topics. At CPM 16, some contracting parties raised Fusarium TR4 and other emerging pests as serious concerns, and rightfully so. Also, the pest outbreak and alert response system was highlighted, and a steering group on this matter will be established very soon. That means the global efforts against emerging pests will increase. So I am optimistic that today's session will provide you with a clearer understanding of the relevant information on Fusarium TR4 surveillance. So I wanted to take this opportunity and thank you immensely. Thank you very much for your effort, your participation today, and I wish you all a fruitful workshop. Thank you very much. Back to you, Camila.
Thank you, Mr. Elisi, for your welcoming remarks and for your support to this activity. Just to report to everybody that we have people connected from around the world, from Kenya, Somalia, Guatemala, Zambia, Mexico, Venezuela, Egypt, Ethiopia, Slovenia, Kuwait, Portugal, from Tanzania, from United States, from Lebanon, from Cambodia, from Nigeria, Zambia, Mayotte, and from Ecuador, from Colombia, from Saudi Arabia, and other many places. So thank you very much for having joined to this session on the workshop series on Fusarium R4. Now, to continue. To continue with this workshop series, I will take the floor and we will start with an overview of the COMESA project and the content of this workshop. So please, Natalie, if you could share the screen with the presentation number 1.
I'm coming. I was just told that I had to do number 2. But...
Yes, Camilo.
Can you see it?
I can see it, Natalie. Thank you very much. So we will start this presentation. Next slide. I just want to recall where you may find the training and guides materials developed by the IPPC. Next slide, please. These guides and training materials are available in the IPPC website. The training and guides materials developed by the IPPC includes a surveillance guide that provides the relevant information to help MPPOs with the implementation of the ISPN 6 on surveillance and supports the national surveillance systems. To consult all the available guides and training materials, please visit the IPPC webpage. This page contains many resources, including brochures, fact sheets, guides, advocacy and training materials, and studies. To consult them, you can go to the IPPC website, click on the tab Resources. Click on the tab Resources. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I had a disconnection. And then you can select the training material box of your interest. Next slide, please. I also want to recall some information about the COMESA project. This workshop series was initially planned for the COMESA project. However, considering that Fusarium R4 is a global concern, this workshop series was extended globally. COMESA is the common market for Eastern and Southern Africa, and the project aims to strengthen the capacities of the COMESA countries. And the IPPC Secretariat support this project by overseeing the creation of a regional networked platform for sharing information on risks to plant health arising from pests and disease, and through the establishment of an early warning and emergency response system to facilitate collective actions in mitigating priority risk. Next slide, please. The IPPC Secretariat and the COMESA Secretariat have been working to achieve expected outputs of the project, which will include e-learning courses, pest risk analysis, export certification, surveillance, and inspection. Also includes guides on contingency planning and on conduction and simulation exercises for 2 selected countries in the COMESA region, and also includes the development of prevention preparedness and response guidelines for Fusarium TR4, which will be subject of a peer review in the following days. Next slide, please. I will take you very quickly through the relevant information about this workshop series on Fusarium TR4. The content of this workshop series on Fusarium TR4 consists on 3 sessions to cover diagnostics, surveillance and early warning, inspection and simulation exercises. The first session, as noted by Mr. Osama, was successfully delivered on March 24th and covered the diagnostic part of Fusarium. If you miss it or you want to consult the recording of the session or the presentations given, please visit the webinar website. Also, all the technical questions from the first session were compiled and answered into a question and answer document, which will be available on the webinar webpage. This is the second session that will communicate and disseminate information on surveillance. Attendants will receive knowledge on the detection and the delimitation surveys and information of the experience of the MPP of Mozambique in dealing with the official surveillance. Likewise, attendants will receive information on the usefulness of the remote sensing for plant health purposes. The third workshop sessions will be on 10 May, which will cover inspections and simulation exercises. I kindly invite you to register if you haven't registered yet. Please visit the webinar webpage to ensure your participation. You can follow the link that will be shared through the chat. Next slide, please. Now, I would like to remark on a couple of key messages delivered during the first sessions on diagnostic. The first message is that the main symptoms expressed by Cavendish by a tier 4 infection are the same symptoms caused by races 1 and 2 of Fusarium in other banana germoplants that are likewise susceptible to tier 4. That means that characterization of symptoms doesn't serve to identify Fusarium races in banana plants expressing the typical symptomatology. In this regard, Gerd Kema noted that despite the fact that Cavendish is very susceptible, there are other banana germoplants that are equally susceptible to tier 4. That's why diagnostic is crucial to timely identify and accurately diagnose Fusarium tier 4 from a plant with the disease symptoms. Next slide, please. We have another key message regarding the diagnostic process. It was noted that the sample processing, the fungus DNA extraction, and the DNA quantification may be executed using different techniques and equipment that can be chosen according to the capacity and condition of the laboratory. Locally prepared reagents or commercial kits may be utilized for these purposes. There are molecular markers, also called primers, that allow the identification of Fusarium tier 4 through the execution of conventional polymerase reaction chain, PCR, real-time PCR, and loop-mediated isothermal amplification LAMP test. And these require specific equipment and lab materials. In this regard, Fernando Garcia stated that a first report must follow a complete route that considers the use of PCR, qPCR or LAMP, genome sequencing, and pathogenicity tests. Next slide, please. Now, we will move to the objectives of this workshop series, which are understand the importance of the appropriate TR4 diagnostic for early warning, including field recognition, sample and sampling management, and know the available tools and protocols needed for TR4 diagnosis. Be aware of the significance of carrying out specific surveillance for Fusarium R4 detection and delimitation, and know the international standards for phytosanitary measures that should be implemented for surveillance purposes. Be mindful of the international trade pathways of significant concern for the Fusarium R4 spread and the commodities that should be subject to inspection. And be better informed on the concept of simulation exercises and understand their usefulness to improve the quarantine pest outbreak response and how to prevent the introduction and spread of quarantine pests such as Fusarium R4. Next slide, please. The IPPC workshop series on Fusarium R4 disseminate and communicate essential information that the involved staff in diagnostics, surveillance, and response for Fusarium R4 should know. The second session on surveillance shared technical and conceptual information to promote a similar knowledge and understanding, considering the gaps among the countries worldwide. In this session, attendants will receive knowledge on the detection and delimitation surveys and information on the experience of the MPPO of Mozambique in dealing with the official surveillance, and will receive information in the usefulness of remote sensing for plant health purposes. I want also recall that virtual sessions are a straightforward and efficient way to disseminate this kind of knowledge as broadly as possible. Next slide, please. Regarding panelists, we have the privilege of having Chris Dale from Australia, who will provide an overview of the surveillance process. We have Antonia Vaz from Mozambique, who will share the experiences of the Mozambique MPPO conducting surveillance for Fusarium R4, followed by a presentation from Lisbeth Parra from Colombia, who will share knowledge on the use of remote sensing for plant health purposes. We will also have a specific session for questions and answers, so please use the Q&A channel to type your questions to the panelists, and the speakers will try to address them in the specific sessions for the Q&A. Also, we will prepare a Q&A document where we will provide answers to all the questions that are asked, even if we don't have time to answer them today. Last but not least, I would like to remark that this webinar is being interpreted in French and Spanish, and that's courtesy of SELA and COLEACP. Finally, thank you very much for being here, and I wish an enjoyable webinar. Now, we will move to our first presentation. We will have an overview of the ISPN 6 and the surveillance guide. Chris Day delivers this presentation. Chris is an international biosecurity specialist at the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade of Australia. Chris is also the Vice Chair of the Implementation and Capacity Development Committee of the International Plant Protection Convention, the Chair of the FAO IPPC Fall Armyworm Technical Working Group, and the Technical Lead of the International Agricultural Biosecurity Technical Working Group, supporting biosecurity preparedness and response initiatives across the Asia-Pacific region. So Chris, welcome to this webinar session. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Camilo, and good evening to everyone. It's 7:30 p.m. in the evening here in Australia, and I see that we've got our colleagues, the CPPO from Nakia in Papua New Guinea, Mr. Pere Kakawa on the line. So it's nice to see some of our regional colleagues here from the Pacific region. But welcome everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to present tonight to you all. And I'm going to be presenting, as Camilo said, on ISPN 6 and surveillance in a broad sense. It's a topic and a role within the Australian MPPO that I have I've delivered as a surveillance field officer and scientist, and also as a manager for almost 20 years within the Australian MPPO, and I'm very passionate about surveillance and the surveillance implementation at a global and a regional and a national level. So I'm going to be talking to you tonight about plant health surveillance systems in the context of the Fusarium R4T technical working group in this webinar, but importantly, the basis of ISPM 6, the resources that are available through the IPPC to support your organisations or your MPPOs in developing and establishing an internationally recognised and credible surveillance system to support your Fusarium R4 surveillance activities, and some of the I guess roles and different components of surveillance in the context of the international standard ISPM 6 and the guide that Camilo talked about. Next slide, please. So importantly, plant health surveillance, there's a lot of different interpretations and considerations around plant health surveillance, but when we refer to plant health surveillance and any other term that's used in the international IPPC context, we need to refer to ISPM 5, which is a glossary of phytosanitary terms. So the most current terminology or term for surveillance is an official process which collects and records data on pest presence or absence by surveillance or monitoring or other procedures. And that was updated in 2015, so it's quite a current and obviously contemporary definition of surveillance. Next slide, please. So in terms of national surveillance requirements, surveillance is, as the IPPC Secretary very rightly said, surveillance is one of the core activities of an MPPO, a National Plant Protection Organisation, and it's fundamental to biosecurity systems at a national level, but also at a regional and even international level. So surveillance provides MPPOs with a technical basis for many phytosanitary measures, including determining or evaluating regional and national phytosanitary and biosecurity risks, supporting claims of pest absence, which is obviously very important in trade and market access negotiations and maintaining trade and market access arrangements. It's critical in developing pest lists to justify phytosanitary measures and informing our pest risk analysis. It's also important to inform eradication and control measures, and importantly, in meeting international reporting requirements. And many of you would have been privy to a number of the national reporting obligation webinars and workshops over the past few years, and the IPPC Secretariat is doing an excellent role in promoting the importance of national reporting obligations, and specifically around ISPM 17, which is pest reporting. And for transboundary pests like fall armyworm and TR4, ISPM 17 and national reporting obligations is really critical. So as Camilo said, the surveillance standard, or ISPM 6, is the international standard for surveillance. It describes the requirements for surveillance and specific requirements and components of a national surveillance system. And it is designed for MPPOs. It's designed as an international standard and a framework for MPPOs to develop and maintain and measure the success of their national surveillance system. ISPM 6 was adopted by CPM 13 in 2018, and this replaced the original ISPM 6 that was adopted in 1997, which for many of you will appreciate that a lot has changed in the international phytosanitary space, but especially in the surveillance space in terms of technologies, capacity and capability, and also resourcing for surveillance. So I was very fortunate. I was on the ISPM 6 technical working group or expert working group that did revise ISPM 6 in 2016 and that went on to, I guess, author the revised or updated ISPM 6 in 2018. So I can speak from personal experience that the current surveillance standard does represent a contemporary and a current surveillance systems within the MPPO. It should also be noted that the surveillance standard has been reviewed, and it gets reviewed on a regular basis through the implementation committee. And we have a surveillance team within the implementation committee that reviews this work on and the guide on a regular basis to make sure that it is current and contemporary. So in terms of the surveillance guide, as Camilo said, the surveillance guide provides a more detailed and a more comprehensive resource for MPPOs and surveillance specialists to be able to apply and implement ISPM 6. It was developed to assist the implementation or establishment of national surveillance systems, and it goes into a lot more details than the actual guide around the different components of a national plant health surveillance system. So resourcing, management, policy, legislative arrangements, right down to the different types of surveillance, the different types of equipment and resourcing and training that might be required at that national level. And it can also be used to establish the fundamental or really be used as a guide or checklist to ensure that MPPOs are meeting that international requirements. It was updated last year, and again, I was part of a group of technical experts from around the world and representing all the regions that did revise and update that. And again, big thanks and acknowledgements to Natsumi and the implementation facilitation unit for updating and revising and publishing that plant pest surveillance guide. And I encourage everyone to definitely review that in the context of your Fusarium TR4 surveillance program, but also in context of your national surveillance program. Next slide, please. So collectively, both the ISPM 6 standard on surveillance and the plant pest surveillance guide both form the official suite of resources that the IPPC provides to MPPOs to support their national plant pest surveillance systems. Again, as Camilo mentioned, and as did the IPPC secretary, there are also a number of other very useful and very relevant and practical resources that can be found on the IPP. There's a surveillance landing page on the IPPC website that has a lot of links and a lot of contributed resources from countries on specific pests, but also on things like resourcing and training. And it was also mentioned there has been an e-learning surveillance course that has just been finalised, I believe, within the last few days that many of us are involved in, which is an online self-paced e-learning surveillance course, which is aligned to both the standard and the guide. So there's a lot of resources out there for you to draw on, but fundamentally, ISPM 6 should be the core document and key document that everyone refers to when evaluating and ensuring that their national surveillance system meets those international requirements. Next slide, please. As I said, it is also very important that all of the surveillance efforts at a national level and with MPPOs contributes to pest reporting and national reporting obligations. As we've mentioned, in relation to transboundary pests like fall armyworm and TR4, it is very important at a national level to be able to conduct surveillance from an early warning and an early detection and a monitoring perspective, but it's also very important that the results of that surveillance efforts are also reported as quickly and timely as possible. And the most official way and the mandatory way of doing that is through ISPM 17, or the pest reporting standard, as you can see there. And again, to support that standard, there is a very practical guide that was updated quite recently, the Guide to National Reporting Obligations. And there's also a whole range of technical materials and resources on the IPP And there's a landing page to support that, as well as workshop and webinar materials. So it's very important that all of our surveillance efforts are actually also contributing to regional reporting or reporting at a national level, but through a regional and international perspective. And it's also critical that for FAO and more broadly, key donors and funders to support TR4 response and management activities are really triggered and through the reporting process. So it's very hard to request funding or support or technical support unless you've actually reported officially through the NRO process. So again, a very critical part of a national surveillance system. Next slide, please. So again, there's a number of very, very useful and practical resources on the IPPC website, in particular the IPPC Pest Report Bulletin, which provides a regular update and almost a bulletin or a news or alert system for countries for new pest alerts or new pest reports to come through. So if you are concerned about Fusarium TR4 in your region, and it might be with your near neighbour or countries within your region, you can actually refer to the Pest Report Bulletin for those if you don't have bilateral arrangements or those relationships to be able to engage directly. You can see all of those updates on the IPPC Pest Report Bulletin. Next slide, thanks. And you can see there that there's you can go back and look at historic reporting arrangements through the years. So if you suspect that, or if you're trying to forecast or monitor the movement of a particular pest or a transboundary pest through the region and within the vicinity of your country, you can actually go through the historic bulletins and look at those movements. And again, this is very useful from the full armyworm preparedness perspective, and is very relevant to TR4 as well. So I encourage everyone to, if you haven't already accessed those pest report bulletins or how to look at any sort of alerts from your region, by all means, they're the links to go to find that on the IPPC website. So this is an example of the Fusarium Race 4 official report that came from Australia in 2017. So as you can see there, there's a time and date stamp and details. Importantly, it talks about the hosts that are relevant for that particular report, the pest status in terms of whether the pest is present and what the control is. So as you can see there, it's present subject to official control, and present not widely distributed and under official control under the pest status for the old determinations. And you can also see there the geographical distribution. So again, in a country like Australia, as you can appreciate, which is very big, and we have a number of near neighbours, including our colleagues and friends in Papua New Guinea, we might get a detection on one side of the country and be able to maintain area freedom for the other side of the country. So just because a country has a detection doesn't mean that it's widespread throughout that particular country. So it's very important that you don't just look at the report from a country, you actually go in and actually have a look at the geographical distribution and any range extension updates that might come from that pest reporting. Next slide, please. Importantly, there's official and unofficial reporting. So in terms of trade and market access and international negotiation, the official ISPM 17 pest reporting and national reporting obligations provides the official pest status register of pest status. But it's also important to recognise that there are unofficial reports that can sometimes or often contribute to pest range and pests being reported in your country without it actually coming through your NPPO. So in terms of being able to validate those processes, it's very important to recognise that there are both official and unofficial reporting and mapping and distribution representation. And again, I've used an example there of the latest CABI summary data for Fusarium TR4, and also a current United Nations record for TR4 reports as well. So it's important that you don't base all of your, I guess, early warning and forecasting and preparedness just off unofficial reports, that you also try and validate that through the pest reporting bulletins as well. Next slide, please. So into, I guess, more of the kind of principles behind national reporting systems and the importance of plant health surveillance. Essentially, we know that there's growing phytosanitary threats and challenges at both a national or domestic and a regional and global level. And I think many of you will appreciate that fall armyworm has been probably the best case study of that at a global level, really, with the speed and efficiency at which fall armyworm has moved really across the globe in a very fast and efficient manner, but also breaching geographical boundaries and from in a natural way, in a natural sort of pathway, very, very efficiently. And again, we've had fall armyworm detections and outbreaks here in the Pacific region, and we've proven that fall armyworm has been able to travel over 700 kilometres over ocean, and very sort of tough conditions, just on the wind and prevailing winds. So 700 kilometres, in an overnight transport. So some of these threats are very, very hard to manage. They're very hard to mitigate through traditional phytosanitary measures or mitigation measures. And so it's important that we consider that in the context of our surveillance. So we've got globalisation and changes in population and population movement. We've got climate change impacts, and Fusarium TR4 is definitely one of the key international phytosanitary pests that is aided and supported. It is impacted through climate change, as has been demonstrated through many scientific papers, agricultural expansion, intensification, tourism and passengers and cargo movement, and also increasing demands from trading partners. So surveillance is really important to try and manage and mitigate some of those threats. Next slide, please. So when we look at national plant health surveillance in a phytosanitary sense, it's important to recognise that we have our trading countries, we have our near neighbours, and the regulated and unregulated pathways. We have import pathways and the export pathways. And importantly, to support that, we have our national plant pest surveillance status. So we can't maintain that pest status without a very effective and consistent and efficient surveillance program. So when we look at national surveillance programs, there are essentially 5 different components that we look at. So early warning or pre-border surveillance, early detection, national surveillance, and as we move more into the concept of general surveillance, we're now relying more and more on industry or commercial stakeholder surveillance, and also community surveillance through different technologies and different opportunities. Next slide, please. So as far as a national plant pest surveillance system goes, it is a very integral part of a country's plant health strategy. And importantly, it facilitates trade, but it also should be the backbone and basis, the technical basis of your biosecurity system in terms of early warning, early detection, and then response. There are a number of different components of a national surveillance system. So you might have national programs such as a pre-border or border or post-border programs. There may be pest-specific programs that focus on biosecurity or trade and market access or export priorities like fruit flies or Fusarium TR4 or fall armyworm. There might be commodity-specific programs which might be focused on those key, commercial or high value or economic important commodities like timber and forestry, or banana, citrus and grain. And then obviously the trade and market access specific programs that might be supporting determination and maintenance of pest-free areas or delimiting surveillance. And I've got an example there of a national surveillance strategy that underpins a lot of that. So this is just a very broad overview of a surveillance system framework, and these slides are available, so we'll make those available to everyone. So I won't go through them in too much detail, but this is really how we've established our national surveillance system in Australia, and you can see that there's a whole range of different variables there that contribute to that overall national system. Next slide, please. So importantly, pre-border and early warning surveillance programs is really critical for prevention and preparedness. It's important to acknowledge that early warning covers both your regulated or your trade and market access pathways and your non-regulated natural pathways. And we know that Fusarium TR4 is a transboundary pest, and that can move across country boundaries and lines very easily. It can move through natural means. So it is important that our pre-border early warning programs do recognise that. They can be delivered through specific and general surveillance programs. It's very important that early warning systems and programs support preparedness and prevention. And from the example in Australia, it relies very closely on very close and effective working relationships between countries at both a bilateral, near neighbour and a regional level. And again, we're very privileged to have our PNG colleagues here that we work with very closely for over 30 years. And we do joint surveillance with our PNG colleagues. We do training and capacity development work together. We do a lot of our work in collaboration to ensure that we have a good early warning of pests that might be coming from the Papua New Guinea pathway. And likewise, we're also alerting them and providing that early warning to them for pests that might be travelling northwards up in the Papua New Guinea from Australia that they might not have. Next slide, please. So in terms of early warning and early detection, it's important that when TR4 is absent from a country, MPPOs do undertake early warning and early detection actions in a preventative and a preparedness sense. We don't want to wait until we actually have a detection to start getting all of our resourcing and technical training and capacity up to in place. We really want to have preparedness in place well before we have that first detection. So organising training courses for staff, particularly on surveillance activities, simulation, like we're going to which is included in the next webinar, proficiency in implementing plans and establishing the governance around a surveillance program, conducting general surveillance through public awareness and education, especially around commercial growers, and also conducting specific surveillance as proactively as possible. It might be in some of those areas that are susceptible to natural pathway incursions. And it also might be in conducting surveillance in your near neighbour countries or supporting your neighbours to do surveillance so that they're also as prepared as possible. Next slide, please. Importantly, as both Camillo and the IPB Secretary pointed out, there's a lot of really good work that's happening through the IPBC, through the Implementation Committee and the Secretariat on the development of a global pest outbreak and alert response system. So critical to these systems are effective early warning and early detection surveillance programs and the reporting that feeds into that. So again, I think there's some great opportunities for the work of our technical working group on TR4, our technical working group on full armyworm, and also feedback from you as participants and stakeholders to really establish and develop and grow this really important pest outbreak and alert response system, so that we do raise that preparedness at a global and a regional level. Next slide, please. So early detection surveillance programs, again, are very important for providing that early detection in those key areas that might be susceptible to a pest incursion. It might be around international seaport and international airport areas where we do get that international cargo and passengers and freight coming in. So it's important to partner with industry and stakeholders in those areas to make sure that we do either visual surveillance or trapping surveillance, depending on the pest, but to make sure that we prioritise our surveillance efforts in those really susceptible and vulnerable areas. It's important also to enhance responsiveness. So we target surveillance to ensure that we can try and maintain the pest if there is a detection or outbreak in those quarantine or in those controlled facilities. And early detection can also be conducted in very remote and isolated areas, again, where it may be difficult to, there may be natural pathway areas on rivers or systems where there's natural and unregulated trade between countries. And again, it can include trapping, targeted trapping and general surveillance or visual surveillance activities. Next slide, please. So for post-border, essentially, this is when we do have a detection, and it's important to be able to then determine the range and the scope and delimiting and delimit the range of that pest detection. And it might be within a particular geographical area. It might be in areas where cargo or that particular pest may have been transported on a commodity into new areas, into growing or production areas. So it's very important that early detection and initial delimiting work happens as soon as that first detection happens. And again, that can happen at a government level by government or MPPO specialists, by industry, and also by other stakeholders that might be agronomists and different experts as well. It's also important to note that in terms of market access surveillance programs, that if we do get a detection and it's in a commercial growing area, that surveillance will support the pest-free area status, for international trade. So just because a pest has been detected doesn't mean that a whole country's worth of trade and market access is shut down overnight. Surveillance records are really critical in that initial early detection and delimiting phase to be able to still support and sustain trade, but it must be done in a very sort of practical and sustained way. Next slide, please. So delimiting and monitoring, again, is very important for TR4 and for any pest. But for TR4, it's generally based on visual examination, and we're going to talk about the technical aspects of TR4 surveillance later on in this webinar. But essentially, we can also draw on general surveillance from growers, from awareness, and those producers to really sort of promote, but also to identify, more opportunities to look at range extension. And there's some interesting fact sheets there and awareness materials that are provided from Queensland around surveillance. But again, it's very important to have all of these materials and all of these awareness resources prepared well in advance of TR4 being detected in your country. Next slide, please. So in terms of pest management, surveillance and monitoring, it's very important that just because we've detected a particular pest, and in this case TR4, doesn't mean that we stop our surveillance efforts there. So it's very important that there's a pest management system or a program to monitor not only any sort of eradication and management efforts, but also to maintain any sort of pest-free area verification and records for market access, but also to test the efficacy of any management and control programs as well. Next slide, please. So importantly, surveillance is not only critical to the MPPOs in terms of information and fact sheets and guides and protocols, but it's also very important to our stakeholders, the commercial stakeholders, the community, the public, and there are a number of fact sheets and contributed resources that have been provided through the technical working group to support this work, as along with the TR4 guideline that Camilo mentioned is being developed at the moment through the technical working group. So again, it's important that we utilise as many of those resources as possible, and we try and raise awareness to support the official surveillance activities through general surveillance initiatives through our MPPO. Next slide, please. So this does require a very coordinated partnership or collaboration, right across stakeholders. And as we found here in Australia, that TR4 surveillance and management can only happen with the very coordinated and productive relationship between all of the key stakeholders. So from an MPPO perspective, the MPPO providing the oversight and the high level national governance for the programs. There's also the producers and the growers. We have our jurisdictional state and territory governments that do a lot of the actual on the ground and technical work, as we've seen with our Queensland members of the technical working group. The community is also very important. We might have organisations or advocacy groups that pulls all of those key groups together, and Plant Health Australia is the group in Australia that we draw on for that. We have researchers that might be looking into different control and management and IPM measures. And we also have those peak and industry bodies. So collectively, that partnership is really important to be able to support a national surveillance system, and particularly a surveillance program around a significant pest like TR4. Next slide, please. And that's the end of my presentation. And again, the presentation will be available. And for all of those documents and resources, there's hyperlinks in the presentation that you can click and go straight to the resources. But importantly, please use or please refer to ISPM 6 and the surveillance guide for any technical and official guidance you might require. Please have a look at the IPBC website on the surveillance landing page for any sort of contributions. And again, the guideline and the more technical resources will be coming out shortly through the TR4 guideline that will be authored by our technical working group. And thank you for the opportunity to present. Thank you, Camilo.
Thank you, Chris, for this complete presentation where you covered information on the surveillance process, the ISPM 6 and the surveillance guide, and the other relevant information you shared. So far, we have 0 questions in the Q&A channel. So I want to invite our attendants to ask your questions into the questions and answer channel. You have an icon in the below part of your screens that is called Q&A. So please provide your questions to our speakers. They will be attentive to answer all your questions. So please provide your questions. Now I have the pleasure to announce the next presentation, which will consist on the experience of the Mozambique MPPO conducting the surveillance for Fusarium R4. Antonia Vaz delivers this presentation. Antonia is the head of the Plant Health Department at the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development of Mozambique. She is responsible for the implementation of the emergency plan designed to contain the Fusarium R4 in the northern part of Mozambique, and has participated in the development of national capacity program for Fusarium R4 identification, diagnosis, and management. Antonia, welcome to this webinar sessions. Thank you for joining us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you very much. I'm asking for Rokila to project the presentation, please.
Yes, thank you. Antonia will share your presentation in a second.
Yes.
Natalie, can you confirm that you are sharing the presentation for Antonia?
I didn't know I had to. I will find it and do it.
Yes, it is the presentation number 3.
I'm downloading it.
Yes.
I'm already projected.
Yes.
Everyone can see?
Yes, we can see your screen, Antonia. You want to share it on your own?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Yes. Thank you very much for giving Mozambique the opportunity to share the information about detection and delimitation survey from Panama disease tropical race 4. Just for introduction, I want to share the information about the industry, banana industry in Mozambique. Mozambique have 3 regions, and all these 3 regions are banana producers, farmers. In the southern region, we have 16 large commercial growers. And in the central region, we have 3 large commercial growers. And most of the banana producers in the central region is small holder farm. In the northern region where the disease occurred, we have 3 large commercial growers also. The total area in Mozambique is 75,000 hectares, including the small farms, banana producers. The production per year, according to the FAO statistic, is 518,000 tons. And Mozambique is the 3rd most banana producer in Africa. In Mozambique, banana is important in the diet of the families and source of income for small producers in rural areas. And of course, is a source of foreign exchange to the country through export to different international and regional markets, contributing with $70 million per year for balance of payments. In recent years, the country has made significant investment in the banana industry, ensuring employment for the many many families. The total production of banana industry, 80% is exported to several international markets and 20% is local consumed. And this 20%, most of them is coming from the smallholder farms. Banana producing in the country has been affected by several biotic and abiotic factors, such as low level of use of appropriate technology, culminating in low yields and poor quality of fruits, especially for the export market, due to the attack of pests and disease, particularly banana bunch top virus and Panama disease tropical race 4. Let me say that Mozambique is in the only country in African region with this disease. We have different types of farms. This photo showing the different management of fruits in smallholder farms and in commercial farms. You can see in the smallholder farms some the management of the fruits are not good. And most of the largest commercial farms are owned by foreigners. This is another example for small commercial medium-sized farms owned by national farms in the central part of the country. This is another photo showing the smallholder farms for subsistence. You can see the areas are not well organized. Regarding the detection and the steps taken after Foc R4T confirmation in Mozambique, let me say that in Mozambique, the first communication of occurrence was in 2018 in Nampula province, northern part of the country. And the commercial Matanuska company at this time detected plants with symptoms of Fusarium wilt. And Matanuska informed the NPPO and the university, and we collected samples. And the university in Mozambique, Eduardo Mondlane University, confirmed the presence of Fusarium oxysporum, but Stellenbosch University at South Africa confirmed the presence of Fusarium oxysporum tropical race 4. This photo showing the symptoms in the field, some external symptoms. We can see banana leaves wilt and progressive buckle at the petiole, resulting in a scat of dead leaves draped around the plants. You can see another external symptoms on showing the presence of the disease. Fusarium wilt is pseudostem crash. You can see some cracks in the pseudostem. Internal symptoms, the most characteristic symptoms may be seen by the cutting through the pseudostem at the infected plants. So we can see dark brown to black discoloration of the water conducting tissue is evident. Rhizomes also, when we cut, showing a yellow to brown discoloration and dark brown to black flakes, lines through the tissues. After that, the NPPO visit the farm to assess the phytosanitary situation and recommended containment measures, such as monitor production fields regularly for early detection of new infected plants, according with the ICPM number 6, In the infected areas, the infected plants were cutting and burning or cutting and burying. Also, the NPPO report the occurrence of disease to the high level in the Ministry of Agriculture and measures that were underway, and notified the IPPC, IPSAC, and SADC and SADC. This is the information is posted on the IPPC portal, announcement of Tier 4 in Mozambique in 2018. So after the field visit, the NPPO developed a project to contain the disease and request support from FAO, and action plan was approved as emergency project and lasted for 1 year. Minister of Agriculture called the different stakeholders and experts of the disease from University in Mozambique, Stellenbosch University in South Africa, Australian experts, Barnesa, Bioversity International, and ITA to assist in the collaboration of technical recommendation for disease containment. This is very important coordination with different stakeholders to ensure that all measures are in place, is in line with other experience in the another infected countries around the world. So also we created a task force involving different stakeholders to monitoring the implementation of biosecurity measures. And also we create a national working group with different stakeholders, including the research, private sector, extension service, and NPPOs. The recommendations consist on enabling policy environment and on farm measures. Regarding the enabling policy environment, ensure effective coordination and synergy among the relevant institutions, and including public-private partnerships, advocacy to ensure commitment of government and the regional communities, develop and implement appropriate strategy and contingency plans for emergence, preparedness, and mitigation, and enhance awareness of policymakers, technical institutions, and general public on the impact and prevention of the disease. On farm measures, improvement in drainage system, border control, gate controls, and vehicles movements. As we know that disease is spread by soil, contaminated soil, but also water contributed a lot for spread of the disease. So drainage system is very important to containment the disease. Improved planning is critical, while establishment new plantation in terms of phytosanitary measures, as well as drainage requirements, location of packing house, and flooding treats. Improve sustainable crop management and application of best practice. These contribute a lot to reduce the inoculum in the soil, and provide appropriate and adequate training to workers, and raise awareness of neighboring communities on importance of containment and impact of the disease. Here we're showing some training realized in a northern part of Mozambique where disease occurred. Establishment and training of the national surveillance team was conducted by Professor Alto from Stellenbosch University and Mr. Jamisi Amisi from Agrarian Research Institute in Mozambique. So in 2 parts, theoretical component, and also supported by field training on identification, symptoms, and sample collection. Training of NPPO technicians, extension offices was carried out by Stellenbosch University on the identification of the disease and the management. You can see in the photo, Professor Altus in the give the training in Nampula. Also, we conducted training for plant quarantine officers, research institution, and private sector on technique and other technicians in detection, identification, and management of Fusarium wilt. To ensure capacity at national capacity for diagnosis, 2 delegates from university and from agrarian research from Mozambique was training in Stellenbosch University on diagnostic and characterization Foc Tier 4. And the training also conduct at local level. Specialists from the disease from Stellenbosch University coming from our lab in Nampula province and conducted training for the technicians in the lab on diagnostic and characterization of the disease. Smallholder farms also was benefit with the training. Most of them are vicinity of the infected farms in Nampula regions. So they receive the training on disease diagnostic, management, and phytosanitary measures, and also for the impact of the disease in the farms. A lot of awareness materials was produced on disease identification, prevention, and management. And this material was distributed to the farms and all stakeholders in the banana producing chain. You can see some leaflets, poster, and very important inputs on this training. We have now a banana fusarium wilt containment manual using for identifying risk pathway and prevention of spread the disease. So many information in the radio, at official language, but also at using local language to ensure that the farmers be aware. The information also posted in the newspaper and television. We have some street signers, workshop conducted to be aware the stakeholders about the disease and other meetings. This poster we elaborated in collaboration with Mr. Fazil from FAO. Also, this material we produced is leaflets on biosecurity procedures to enter and exit of the farms. Street signs is in Portuguese. In the plaque, we can see attention, banana disease, Panama disease in Nampula and Cabo Delgado province. don't move propagation materials to the infected areas to free areas. In terms of the limitation area of Panama disease, the beginning of the survey, collection of samples and delimitation of areas started in 2014. The official survey aimed to establish the phytosanitary states of Foc R4 in an area. Isolation of the area, not allowing the movement of people in the area or vehicles, since the funk still in the soil for more than 30 years. Quarantine area has been declared. Sample collection by the producers. It was prohibited, being restricted only to agricultural authorities for testing or research purpose. Mandatory disinfection with sodium hypochlorite, all tools and utensils used in cultural treatment, slug of plants suspect of symptoms, mandatory use of seedlings produced in vitro or of proven origin to reduce the risk of introducing the disease in the production area. And also mandatory communication with cell phone, telephone, or email for agriculture in case of suspect new outbreaks. We can see in the photo, the facing, all the infected farms are facing, not allowing movement of people or vehicles in the area. This part is showing the declaration. This area has a quarantine area, and the information also we are publishing in the newspaper about the occurrence of new disease in the country and the ongoing biosecurity measures. This is the information that we are showing in the newspaper. Survey we carried out in 6 districts in Nampula province, but also we conduct a survey in central part, Manica province, and in the south part in Maputo province. And field diagnostic and surveillance manual was produced. We developed methodology for surveillance for Fusarium wilt according to the ISPM number 6. This is showing some photos. The surveillance team, national surveillance team, conduct target surveillance, particularly those growing in small growers vicinity of Matanuska and Jacaranda, and in other areas in the Nampula region. This also is showing some photos regarding the survey. During survey, the producers provide information on the history of the plantation and some practice applied in the farm. Also, a photo in Erati district. Results of this survey, total of 15 districts and 87 fields surveyed in the 3 provinces, Nampula, Manica, and Maputo. 15 of 56 fields showing Fusarium wilt symptoms, not exactly TR4, but Fusarium wilt symptoms. 26, more than 26 of incidents of these symptoms is it was in Nampula province where this is occurred. The graphic also showing the Erati district, and the Monapo district is areas that we need to take more attention, because the most infected by the disease. Some other districts like Mekuburi, Murupula, and Ribawe are not affected by the disease. The map is showing the infected area in Nampula province and the vicinity. Cabo Delgado province in Shuri district is near Nampula province. And this farm in Cabo Delgado province, the donut proprietary is the same. So all the farms are infected by Foc R4T, but also we have Foc R1. The map showing the risk of infestation. Here is Nampula, and the another districts around Monapo districts is the risk is high, so we have to monitoring regularly this area to ensure that disease are not spread to another districts in the province. Regular monitoring in affected areas we still conduct to ensure prevention and spread the disease. Is another monitoring work that we conduct in Nampula by the team, surveillance team. Visit the farms also is regularly by the director and the team from the NPPO research to monitoring the biosecurity measures and the recommendation that the Minister of Agriculture is already established. Let me say that Mozambique have a national strategy for Panama disease control, elaborated by Professor Altos and the team from the Minister of Agriculture. The map showing, this is another map showing the plants with symptoms. These are not yet confirmed that the disease is there, but is this red cycles is plant showing symptoms of Panama disease. And in Nampula province, we're waiting for the diagnostic results. This is in Cabo Delgado, also some plants showing the symptoms. Manica province, not symptoms. In this is Nampula, this is Zambezia, it's another province banana producer, and some plants also showing symptoms, and we're still waiting for the results. And we conduct also the survey to collect samples at the southern part of the country to establish the southern part as a free from Panama disease according to the ICPM number 4. And we're still also waiting for the results from the diagnostic, laboratory diagnostic. This is a map showing 2 provinces in the southern part, Gaza and the Maputo province. We're showing some plants. We see some plants with symptoms, but we need to confirm. According with the policymakers, we conduct a lot of meetings with the private sector, industry, with the farms, with the a lot of stakeholders on the banana producers chain to be aware, to explain about the situation of the disease and the importance of following the biosecurity measures in the farm. Even those farms are not diseases there, then we talk about the disease, and most of these farms, there is biosecurity measures are in place. Conference meetings with industry and other stakeholders is also we realize with experts from China, from Australia, from so many countries. And at the end of this conference, we elaborated a small project, and it's now approved by Australia, Agriculture in Australia, and the project is the focus is on smallholder farms biosecurity measures, because until now the biosecurity measures focus is for private sector or commercial farms. So with this project, the new project will focus on smallholder farms, the security measures from our local conditions. We have also a portal with the private sector, Banana Producer Association in Mozambique. So the information about the disease, Panama disease, and other phytosanitary problems is showing on in this platform. Our actual situation for Panama disease is still confined at Nampula and Cabo Delgado province until now. Biosecurity measures are underway in the infected areas, and the integrated management of Foc R4T is being implemented using organic material, efficient microorganisms, trichoderm, and resistant varieties to improve productivity. At this moment, the varieties are, the tolerant varieties is not resistant, it's tolerant, sorry, tolerant varieties are using is Formosana. And because this integrated management of Foc R4T, the production and the export increased. In 2018, when it was declared, the farm declared financial insolvency, then they export 1 container per week. But at this moment, they export 19 containers per week. So this is wonderful. The percentage of infected plants in the field is below 3%. The photo showing some biosecurity in place, food bath and disinfestation booths. We're showing the changes house and booth food bath at Jacaranda Monap and packing for export banana. Research are in place, so many papers to all this research is to ensure that we find a means to contain the disease, to control and prevent the spread. Finally, let me say that regular surveillance is crucial to monitoring disease and prevent spread, and the coordination different stakeholders is a key for success to ensure joint efforts to containment the disease, and awareness campaign at different levels is also a key communicate the strategy to ensure the knowledge about the symptom and management. And it's very important the farms to report immediately to the agricultural authorities for any similar symptoms like Foc, Fusarium wilt, to enable to take early decision and prevent spread. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Tonia, thank you very much for this helpful information on the experiences of the Mozambique MPPO conducting the surveillance for Fusarium TR4. You delivered significant information to people attending today's session. So I will ask your support to answer the questions through the Q&A channel. In any way, we wish to animate all our attendants to provide questions through the Q&A channel. So please don't hesitate to formulate it. Please send the questions using the Q&A button, not the button for the chat on the right. So we really want to collect your questions and take advantage of our speakers to answer all the questions that you have. Now we will have a very short break to invite you to fill a questionnaire on an evaluation survey of this webinar. It will take you less than 1 minute to complete it, and you will help us to improve our future events. So please select the language you wish to answer the survey evaluation. And I repeat, you will help us to improve our future webinars and activities. Also, if you want to take a minute to write your questions through the Q&A channel, all your questions are welcome. We only have 2 questions in the Q&A channel, and I wish you to collect all your questions. So please don't be shy and provide your questions. In the meantime, you provide your feedback on the survey evaluation. We will move to our next presentation. And I repeat, please provide your feedback and provide your questions through the Q&A channel. But to be efficient in the time, we will move to our next presentation. Now I am glad to announce our next presentation that will provide an overview of the remote sensing tools to identify change in plants and their uses for plant health. This presentation will be delivered by Lisbeth Barra. Lisbeth is part of the team that develop and research in precision agriculture and at the Geomatic Green, researching in sensing, remote sensing for agricultural purposes through the thermal and multispectral images captured and analyzing vegetation indices to detect changes in crops and forests. So Lisbeth, welcome to this webinar session. Thank you for joining us, and the floor is yours. In the meantime, you share your screen just to recall that in the chat is the link to the attendance, provide your feedback on the survey evaluation. So Lisbeth, the floor is yours. Please start when you wish.
Cordial saludo para todos. Es un gusto para mí poderlos acompañar el día de hoy y proporcionar la información. A continuación voy a compartir la pantalla con ustedes. Bueno, en el día de hoy vamos a abordar el tema descripción general de las herramientas de teledetección remota para la identificación de cambios en las plantas y su aplicación para sanidad vegetal. Permítame un segundo que tengo problemas para cambiar la presentación.
Lisbeth, ¿quieres que comparta tu presentación?
Por favor, gracias.
Tienes que primero parar la compartición. ¿Lo pueden ver ahora?
Sí. Bueno, antes de entrar en materia, es importante definir qué es la teledetección o el sensoramiento remoto. Esta se define como una herramienta para adquirir información de un objeto o de una superficie mediante el uso de un sensor que no se encuentra en contacto con el objeto, lográndose identificar diferentes superficies tales como suelo, vegetación, agua, entre otros. Si bien es importante mencionar que esta herramienta tiene una amplia gama de usos, dentro de los cuales están usos industriales, usos topográficos, usos forestales y por supuesto lo que compete en este caso, usos agrícolas. A través del sensoramiento remoto aplicado en agricultura, es posible adquirir información del estado de los cultivos, obteniendo resultados en tiempo real en cualquier estado fenológico de las plantas. Siguiente lámina, por favor. Pero, ¿cómo se da el proceso de sensoramiento remoto? Es importante considerar que existe una fuente de energía que es el sol. Esta energía pasa a través de la atmósfera y llega a la superficie terrestre. Allí, esa energía puede ser transmitida, reflejada o conservada. Para el caso de la teledetección, la energía reflejada es la que se mide principalmente. Bien, esta energía reflejada es captada por un sensor que puede estar montado en una plataforma que puede ser un dron, un satélite, un avión u otro. Es importante resaltar que no son los aviones, que no son los drones, que no son los satélites los que capturan esta información, sino sensores especializados para esta labor. Posteriormente, esta información es recibida en un receptor y a partir de allí se procesa la información con unos software especializados para obtener esa data que se requiere. Siguiente lámina, por favor. Otro concepto que debemos abordar dentro del sensoramiento remoto es el espectro electromagnético. Como mencionaba en un principio, el sol emite una energía. Esta energía viaja a través de ondas, las cuales podemos ver una parte que se conoce como región visible y va de los 400 a los 700 nanómetros. Sin embargo, dentro del espectro electromagnético existen otras áreas que son de interés para la agricultura que no se pueden ver bajo la visión humana. Es acá donde los sensores facilitan la visualización o la detección de esa información del espectro que no se puede captar con el ojo humano. Siguiente lámina, por favor. ¿Cuáles son los sensores que se usan en agricultura? Existen varios. Sin embargo, en esta oportunidad vamos a hacer mención a 4 de ellos. Tenemos como primera instancia el sensor RGB, que hace referencia a esa región visible del espectro, que es rojo, verde y azul. Tenemos el sensor multiespectral, que es capaz de captar hasta 15 bandas espectrales, incluyendo las del RGB o zona visible. Tenemos el sensor hiperespectral que capta más de 15 bandas espectrales y por supuesto también incluye esta región visible. Y tenemos el sensor térmico que capta la temperatura que emiten los objetos. Bien, es importante mencionar que los sensores permiten capturar una serie de imágenes que se usan para elaborar mapas de reflectancia, como los que ustedes pueden ver al fondo de la pantalla, que lo que van a permitir es tener una visualización de los cultivos. Esta información se puede analizar a través de los índices de vegetación. Siguiente lámina, por favor.
¿Podría decir un poco más despacio, Lisbeth, por favor?
Vale, sí, señor. Pero, ¿qué es lo que miden los sensores realmente? Acá encontramos una gráfica donde tenemos 3 posibles situaciones en las cuales se puede encontrar la vegetación. Una vegetación con unas condiciones adecuadas o óptimas, una vegetación en una condición de estrés y vegetación que está muerta o senescente. Cuando nosotros tenemos una planta con unos altos niveles de clorofila, con unas excelentes condiciones de nutrición, de humedad, podemos hablar que la planta tiene unas condiciones de salud adecuadas. Y esto se ve reflejado principalmente en el espectro infrarrojo. ¿Qué pasa con este espectro? Este espectro tiene una mayor reflectancia frente a aquellas plantas que se encuentran en una condición de estrés o muertas. Esa condición de estrés se puede dar por diferentes circunstancias, por intoxicación, presencia de plagas, presencia de enfermedades, entre otros. Por lo que es acá donde nosotros debemos ver y entender que los sensores lo que están permitiendo es identificar la fluctuación de la reflectancia que las plantas tienen frente a una condición específica. Siguiente lámina, por favor. Como mencionaba anteriormente, esa información que es adquirida a partir de los sensores y de la evaluación de la reflectancia que se da en las plantas se tiene que evaluar. Una de las formas en que esta información se evalúa es a través de los índices de vegetación. ¿Qué son los índices de vegetación? Estos se definen como una medida cuantitativa que usa una fórmula para que considera una o dos bandas espectrales que son sumadas, divididas o multiplicadas. Existen más de 100 índices de vegetación. En esta oportunidad vamos a hacer mención a uno de ellos, que es el NDVI. En esta parte podemos observar la fórmula de este índice de vegetación, la cual incluye dos bandas espectrales que son infrarrojo cercano y verde, donde se resta, se suma y se divide para obtener un rango de valores. Este rango de valores va de -1 hasta 1, donde todos aquellos valores que son negativos hacen referencia a superficies artificiales como plástico, a superficies de agua, nubes, rocas, entre otros. Cuando los valores de este índice están de 0.1 a 0.2, hacen referencia a suelo sin vegetación. Y a partir de 0.2 hasta 1, hace referencia a vegetación. En la medida en que los valores estén más cercanos a 1, significa que la vegetación tiene unas mejores condiciones de vigor. Acá es importante resaltar que no necesariamente se está buscando que los cultivos tengan valores cercanos a 1 siempre. ¿Por qué? Porque en la medida en que nosotros tengamos una vegetación que hasta ahora esté en proceso de crecimiento y desarrollo, el índice de vegetación NDVI va a tener valores de 0.3, 0.4 y así hasta que la planta tenga un crecimiento o un desarrollo completo. Siguiente lámina, por favor. La teledetección tiene una amplia gama de usos en agricultura. Dentro de estas aplicaciones está la identificación de cambios en las plantas. ¿Qué cambios? Cambios en los pigmentos como clorofila, cambios en el vigor, identificación de ausencia de plantas en el campo o pérdida de las mismas. También tenemos la estimación de áreas de cultivo, que funciona principalmente para definir la ocupación de un cultivo en una zona específica. Y tenemos una tercera aplicación que es la identificación de arbences o malezas dentro del cultivo. Siguiente lámina, por favor. En pantalla están observando una imagen obtenida para el cultivo de frijol. La información fue obtenida a través de una cámara multiespectral montada en un dron. Esta imagen es el resultado del cálculo NDVI. En la parte inferior se ubica la escala de este índice de vegetación, donde indican los valores de color rojo y naranja suelo, y los colores verdes se refieren como tal al cultivo. Nótese que se observa una variabilidad en el vigor del cultivo. Se notan áreas donde la vegetación no ha tenido un buen desarrollo. Por lo tanto, esto nos da un indicio que tenemos una condición que está permitiendo que algunas áreas se desarrollen de mejor manera que otros, y esto a su vez lo que da es una oportunidad para identificar los puntos o las zonas donde se deben hacer inspecciones específicas en campo. Siguiente lámina, por favor. En esta oportunidad están observando una imagen para el cultivo de aguacate, donde se viene evaluando la presencia de un hongo conocido como la Pseudoplodia teobroma, que afecta principalmente la madera de la planta. Nuevamente vemos en la parte inferior la escala del índice NDVI, donde los colores rojos están representando suelo y los colores verdes están representando como tal el cultivo. Nótese que nuevamente podemos observar dentro del cultivo un comportamiento de vigorosidad que conlleva de variación de vigorosidad que conlleva a pensar que las plantas están en una condición de estrés. Sin embargo, nosotros no podemos llegar a afirmar que esta zona o estas zonas donde las plantas se ven menos vigorosas tengan presencia de la pseudoplodia. Nuevamente vuelve a ser la oportunidad para poder ir a campo y realizar una verificación de cuál puede ser esa condición que está generando que las plantas no se estén desarrollando al mismo ritmo que aquellas que muestran un mejor comportamiento. Siguiente lámina, por favor. En esta lámina estamos observando una imagen para el cultivo de maíz. La información nuevamente fue captada a través de una cámara multiespectral montada en un dron. Y volvemos a ver el resultado del cálculo del índice de vegetación NDVI. En la parte inferior vemos la escala donde nos está indicando que los colores amarillos hacen referencia al suelo y los colores verdes hacen referencia a la vegetación. En esta oportunidad se está resaltando una zona o un área donde se nota la presencia de arbences o de malas hierbas. ¿Esto para qué funciona o para qué sirve principalmente? Para poder llegar al punto específico donde se está generando alguna condición que requiera ser tratada de manera específica. Por lo que esto conlleva a que se haga un uso eficiente de los recursos. ¿Qué tipo de recursos? Recursos económicos, recursos ambientales, recursos humanos. ¿Por qué? Porque en la medida en que se pueda identificar las zonas específicas o los puntos exactos donde tenemos una necesidad de intervención, podemos evitar tener una intervención al 100% de un área y llegar al punto específico. Como ustedes pueden notar, esta tecnología se puede usar en cualquier cultivo, en cualquier etapa fenológica. La tecnología está cada vez más cerca de nosotros, lo que nos facilita obtener información cada vez más precisa para tener un uso eficiente de los recursos. Siguiente lámina, por favor. Bien, con esto doy fin a mi presentación. Agradezco su atención.
Thank you very much, Lisbeth, for your presentation. You shared important concepts on the application of remote sensing for plant health. It's a great presentation. Indeed, it was our last presentation, and now we are going to move to the question and answer session.
Ahora pasaremos a la sección de preguntas y respuestas.
So we have a few questions. So if anybody wants to raise the hand and provide live questions and oral question is invited to raise the hand and we will open the mic. Meanwhile, I want to ask our speakers to provide a little bit of more information on the written answers. And perhaps, Chris Dale, do you want to add something on the questions referring to how many countries in the Pacific region already have Fusarium Panama DC?
Yeah, thank you, Camilo, and thank you very much for that question. So I think in the answer section, I provided some feedback to say that I'll confirm that Australia is the only country within the Pacific region to confirm, officially report Fusarium TR4 back in July 2017. So regionally, the rest of the region is very fortunate to still be free from TR4. But that's, again, it's very important that any surveillance activity that happens as part of the national surveillance obligations actually reflects that. So again, there's no official reports, but it's not to say that TR4 hasn't been, I guess, detected in that country in official capacity. But it means that the preparedness and prevention measures for the Pacific region is still very important to be able to keep it out and to try and prevent it coming in. I think the second question was about differentiating the difference between Fusarium TR4 and other banana diseases. And I've made the point in the answer, the Q&A session there, that it's very important to use surveillance protocols and diagnostic protocols to differentiate between the diseases. And again, we have our colleagues from Papua New Guinea, from the Biosecurity Agency, NACA, here. And there are a number of very important and very devastating banana diseases in Papua New Guinea that some of them are managed very well. But it's important to be able to conduct that surveillance and to be able to have good field identification skills, so which is often the skills of plant pathologists. But that said, plant pathologists can train field staff and field officers in differentiating between the different banana diseases. And again, black sigatoka and moco disease and a number of the banana diseases can be quite easily identified and differentiated in the field, but also through verification diagnostics as well. Thank you, Camilla.
Thank you, Chris, for having this information. I think there is another important questions that Antonia may add some explanation regarding what is the experience in plantain affection of Fusarium TR4. Do you want to add something to your written answer, Antonia?
Yes, thank you. According with our laboratory diagnosis, some plantains showing the symptoms and diagnostic was positive. So plantain is susceptible from TR4.
Thank you very much, Antonia, for your helpful answer. We have another couple of questions for Elizabeth. People is asking if there is any experience in monitoring TR4 through remote sensing in infected banana crops in Colombia. And this is the question, Elizabeth. Do you want to add something?
Bueno, realmente en el tema específico de Fusarium, no tengo conocimiento de que se vengan adelantando investigaciones al respecto a la aplicación de estas herramientas de teledetección. Sin embargo, sí es una oportunidad para mencionar que pueden aportar una información muy valiosa para poder hacer la vigilancia y la posterior verificación en campo.
Thank you, Lisbeth, for your answer. It seems that the English channel isn't working well with the interpretation. So I hope to provide this answer in writing through the question and answer document. I don't see any raised hand asking the floor for provide a question. I also don't see any other questions in the Q&A. You have been a little bit shy today. We have a question from Chucky. If we may open the mic for Chucky, who please provide no more than 1 minute question or intervention, Chucky, please. In meantime, just to let you know that presentations are available in the webinar web page. There you will find the presentation of the first session, and we will upload the presentation of this session as well. So Shuki, the mic is open, take the floor. Please, no more than 1 minute in your question. We cannot hear you, Shuki. Please open your mic. I cannot hear your question, Shuki. So it seems that your mic is having issues. Sorry for that. I don't see any other raised hands, and I don't see any other questions through the channel. Chris, do you want to add something, please?
Thank you, Camilo. I was just going to add that in the Q&A, there was the question around the field surveillance and being able to differentiate between different banana diseases. I was just going to make the comment that in my presentation, there is a field guide or a link to a document that's been for tropical plant pests. And there's a section in there around banana diseases and a number of the significant banana diseases, which talks about different surveillance methodology across all of those different diseases. So that's a really good reference if any of the participants wanted to use that. And if you do have any questions around the images and some of the surveillance techniques, I'm happy to link participants up with the relevant technical experts here in Australia that put together that reference. So I think from memory, it is on page excuse me while so it's on page 21 or slide 21 of the presentation, and it is the exotic pest identification and surveillance guide for tropical horticulture. But there's a lot of detail in there around the banana diseases and different surveillance techniques. And that should provide some clarification for that participant that asked the question. Thank you, Camilo.
Thank you, Chris, for your intervention. Now, I want to thanks to the speakers for the rich presentations they delivered. We have more than 120 participants, and we also have some discussions through the Q&A channel. We wish you provide more questions, but we don't have any more, and we don't have other raised hands. So thank you, everyone, for having participated in this webinar session. We want to encourage participants that haven't responded the survey to assess today's online seminar to dedicate a minute to time and response before leaving the session, so we may improve future webinars. Everyone is invited to register for the third sessions, which complements this webinar and will be on 10 May. will cover inspection and simulation exercises. So please register if you haven't registered yet. We will share the link for registration through the chat, and you can also visit the webinar web page to register for the third session. The Q&A document will be uploaded to the webinar web page, and all the presentations and the recording will be available there. So thank you everyone for attending these workshop sessions. Have a good day or good night. Thank you once again for our speakers and the team of the IPPC Secretariat for your support. Have a good day or good night. Thank you very much again.
Thank you, Camilo. Good night, everyone.
Thank you. Gracias, Camilo. Feliz día para todos.